Greetings adventurers and welcome to the Loot Goblin Marketplace. Today we have a face-off between two factions who think they're in the right, and it's up to you as the viewer to decide. Was the original writer kind of a jerk? This is my favorite kind of RPG horror story, because there's a little bit of give and take. It's not a clear-cut problem player, at least according to the writer of this story. They feel like maybe they had some fault in this, but overall they want to know, were they completely in the wrong? Or was the other side kind of an instigator that made things that were seemingly innocent way worse? Today's treasure is called Gunslinger Shoots Himself in the Foot and Cleric Falls from Grace. Am I the a-hole? Let's jump right into it. Hello everyone, this isn't going to be my first RPG horror story, but it's by far the worst because it ended up with some incredibly harmful claims about me and my best friend basically, and a burner because I know these people probably use Reddit, and I'd rather not get involved in something again. Naturally, names and details are going to be changed, sorry in advance for formatting and length. I feel like a lot needs to be said and I'm on mobile. This is also partially an Am I the a-hole because although I'm pretty sure we've done nothing wrong, I'm still really hesitant to feel completely absolved of guilt. I should also mention that some of the things that are mentioned in this story are really heavy, so I'll just mention there's a trigger warning for implied CP as well. Some folks who are important, me, that's myself, Bard, my best friend, and DM's IRL friend, who played the Bard in our campaign, DM, our Dungeon Master. I'm already going to interrupt here, but for all intents and purposes, the three of us here are all minors. We are children. I'm younger than both the Dungeon Master and my friend, but just about less than 2 years because of how our birthdays fall. Gunslinger, our group's gunslinger, who ended up being one of the main problems. He's an adult in every sense of the word. Cleric is the cleric. He was the oldest of the group and again, very much an adult. Also ended up being the other main problem. Bloodhunter is someone who ended up having our backs when we honestly were least expecting it. He's a cool guy, although we don't talk anymore. Some less important people, Goliath, a member of the campaign who didn't stay long but is slightly important to the story. This all started back last year in roughly July-August, where all my D&D groups were on hiatus. One Dungeon Master was at our state fair for 4-H and couldn't run, and another Dungeon Master was on break after running Horde of the Dragon Queen. Being bored in this time, I joined up with a few games online, having never played before online really. A lot of games honestly weren't great, but one that I joined was Dungeon Master's game, and it seemed really good and he seemed well prepared. So needless to say, I was excited. It was clear that Cleric, Gunslinger, Bloodhunter, and Dungeon Master all knew each other from another hobby and other Discord servers, but it seemed like Goliath and myself were the new players. After getting our characters and everything all set up in Roll20, we hopped into voice chat for the first session and it went pretty well. I was a bit cautious about role-playing, seeing as I wasn't super comfortable with talking to strangers online, but after the session we all hung out for a bit and chatted. We all got along pretty well. As the campaign wore on, I was still enjoying myself. Goliath kept missing sessions, leading to him being kicked from the group and replaced with Bard. I was pretty excited to have a new player, and to not have to play Goliath's character anymore as well, as it was a bit overwhelming sometimes. And in general, Bard seemed like a really chill dude. Immediately, I think Gunslinger and Bard were kind of the closest friends. They ended up playing in a one-off, non-canon one-shot at the request of Gunslinger, but all in all, everyone in general just seemed to be friends. Over time, my Rogue and Bard's characters kind of developed a combat strategy leading to them being good buddies, as well as me talking with Bard more out of session in direct messages, and occasionally working on homework in voice chat together. We were pretty similar and we were the two really big shitposters of the group, and we would make memes during session. To be fair, everyone else did as well. Gunslinger especially would send a lot of memes in and out of session. There weren't really any issues honestly, most of the group's disagreements were mock, Gunslinger and Bloodhunter being mean to people or arguing over Bloodhunter's actions. He had some personal issues that sometimes he brought to the game and acted really inappropriately, even if it was in character. It was just annoying, and no, it wasn't anything gross ever. As a group we really got along. I texted with Bard a lot during and after school. Bard and I were close friends. Because we had similar personal problems as well, we helped each other out. For reference, we were in voice chat together on Christmas Eve. On New Year's, two things happened: an outside drama with Gunslinger, where a bunch of accounts were banned and some of us from the server got involved in it, along with a friend, and something in Bard's personal life that really hurt him came up. That's all I'll share because otherwise it would be 1, unfair for me to share people's personal problems, and 2, too obvious who I'm talking about. In our Discord server, DM had added a channel at our request called Quotes. The Quotes channel was mainly used as like humiliation almost. If someone said something in or out of session that we found funny or lacked context, or in general was just really dumb, we would quote them in channel. This led to not only a lot of memorable campaign moments being saved, but also a lot of us being general dumbasses out of campaigns saved as well. In this server, there was a private voice chat that only myself, Bard, DM, and DM's girlfriend could access. It might sound unfair that only we had access to it, but honestly it was more out of ease of access since we wanted to talk in private sometimes and listen to the bot, as well as being made when I was having a personal problem that DM and Bard were helping with and we didn't want anyone else to join. This was really convenient because Bard and I would be able to do voice chat without having to deal with janky DM voice calling, and without being afraid of having random people join in. When quarantine started, we both had a lot of time off and we used it a lot. Just to hang out, shitpost, whatever. DM used it too, we played Minecraft together. I'm being completely honest here, it was super innocent, we just liked and still like talking. Now this was an issue because it led us to staying up incredibly late more than once and sending a whole bunch of things in quotes. It wasn't something that happened all the time, but there was 2 occasions where Bard and I quote each other back and forth. One time was notably when I got Bard to play Wizards 101. Yes, like the kids game, with me for a bit, and he and I were joking around, and others when playing Minecraft. We also sent some quotes from Easter when we were making joke circus characters, and when we were talking with DM about a card game. We never really spammed the chat, but we did send 9 or 10 quotes tops 1 or 2 times. A lot of the quotes were really dumb things, some highlights being, "I'm no longer baby, I'm dead. I just got hit with a giant axe, my name. I should be everywhere room except where I'm standing. I should be effing dead. Now I'm getting attacked by ninja pigs, anime pigs. I'm trying to put on House of the Rising Sun, do you mind? Bard being killed by a zombie while fishing." Then he leads you directly to the IRA, from the Dungeon Master. Me, almost crying, we had 689.6 days worth of bread. These are taken directly from the channel, and while there was more, I just grabbed a sample group. I can promise they were all to the same effect. This is why when Cleric pinged both me and Bard the following morning saying, "Stop effing flirting" in quotes, we were both completely bewildered. We had absolutely no idea what he was talking about and assumed it was a joke at first. That was until both Cleric and Gunslinger seemed to get off in the quotes channel yelling at me and Bard. It was moved to general when Dungeon Master put slow mode on to stop them from spamming, where I asked for them to explain what was wrong. He said that it was cringy and bothered him, and it was in a flirtatious manner. I really didn't understand what that meant, so I tried to shut it down right there by saying, no, like if you're generally not okay with quotes, I don't want to go on, but I'd like at least an explanation of what to stop doing so I can still send some quotes. To which I was told to relax and that I was just teasing. He basically just went on saying it was cringy, and as I'm reading through the server messages now, it was left at that. I'll admit, I got really defensive and upset because I was afraid that I'd made him mad, but both Cleric and Gunslinger assured me that it was just teasing and meant to be playful. It was left at that. Perhaps it's our fault for not learning our lesson, but the next time we used quotes, it was over a week later and 3 things were quoted in this. The first was me quoting the Dungeon Master about him taking a lot of naps, the second was Bard quoting me about a Halo map construct, and the third was me quoting Bard who was complaining about construct. That was it. The next morning we woke up to Gunslinger and Cleric really upset, spamming the channel, DM locked it again, and this time privated it so that only Bard, myself, and him could see it. We, once again, took it to general chat where Cleric greeted us with, "Do you realize it doesn't effing matter because of the same damn reasons I brought up last time that we're still effing doing the same effing thing and I stated that it made me uncomfortable. Instead of being average intelligence and going, that's fair or some shit, you'll go, I'll effing do it again. Effing morons." I felt really sick to my stomach because I really cared about these people and I really didn't want to hurt anyone, but I decided to stick to myself and I pointed out how Cleric not once said he felt uncomfortable in our previous conversation. I'd even scrolled up to reread it, and the entire situation again was being brushed off. Cleric replied with, "But you stopped me from communicating, which is so cool." Meanwhile, Dungeon Master was telling him that this could have happened before session, and Gunslinger was blaming Bloodhunter as a joke. He got yelled at in the session prior to this happening for talking over Dungeon Master and everyone else. Regardless, I brought up how he said nobody was mad, how he brushed it off as a joke, and how nobody cared. His reply is that he didn't want to stress me out, and that he thought we'd agreed to knock it off, but hey, F whatever I said before, right? Take the conjecture and twist it into whatever fantasy befits your beliefs. Dungeon Master told us to take out a voice chat, and I think we did. Though session after this was really awkward and Gunslinger tried to kill both his and Cleric's character as Cleric had given him control of the character after leaving mid-session. That was our last session basically. From there I don't actually remember all that well, but I do believe that Bard and I were in a private channel when Gunslinger started messaging me. I think they were trying to get Bard to join voice with them, but I ended up joining instead. I was at the point I understood what they meant by flirting. Look, previously in the story there was some context I cut, so as to better narrate how this whole situation went down for me, because what might have been glaringly obvious to a lot of people wasn't obvious to me because it was a thought that had never even occurred. Me and my D&D character are both lesbians. While I hadn't intended to bring this personal fact into the game, I made a passing joke which sparked a romance between my character and another female NPC. It should have been, in my opinion, at least glaringly obvious that I have no, and have had no interest in boys at all. This relationship also wasn't secretive at all either. It had been going on in character since like November, December-ish, and we had portions of the game where I actually went on dates with this NPC. What started happening though was when me and the Bard started talking pretty much all day and every day in voice chat, the others assumed that we were dating, or interested in each other at least. There was definitely a few moments where Gunslinger and Cleric had both pressed Bard on this fact, and even Dungeon Master had brought it up. Now, aside from the fact that Bard is in fact a boy, and I'm not attracted to that gender, Bard had some trust issues due to a past relationship that was very, very recent. In short, there was no way this relationship ever would or could happen, especially at that time. Bard and I had a joke about a jar that we would put $1 into every time someone assumed we were dating because it was so implausible to us. We found it really funny. Although to be fair, I'll analyze how it might have looked to others. Despite my sexuality and Bard's trust issues, we did hang out a lot, and we would DM each other a lot and shitpost it together during the session. Additionally, we had duo characters for a game that Cleric was running while we had a TPK, so we had a good chance to introduce them, that were twins. Since I'm an artist, I did make a joking piece that showed my character saying, "What are you doing, step bro?" followed by a drawing of Bard's character juggling like a pot and a pan, looking nervous and confused. I think that might have sent the wrong idea, although it was clearly a joke to me. From there, I generally can't tell why they might have thought we were dating other than being a boy and a girl who were close friends with similar personalities and backgrounds. I'm not sure, to be fully honest. I'll leave it up to you. Did we go too far with that joke? Or maybe with the quoting and sending memes to each other during session in general, it was too far? Let me just cut in to say it would be totally fine if the writer and the Bard decided to become a couple. Even the writer points out that there's a lot of reasons why maybe someone could mistake it as a budding romance. However, even if the Gunslinger and the Cleric are right, I don't know why they're acting the way they're acting in the story. They're still the problem players here unless the Bard is feeding them another story. But let's see what happens. Right, the interlude aside, back to the issue at hand. I've joined voice chat after some prompting from Gunslingers and direct messages, which roughly followed him asking me if I liked Bard and me denying as much, and him saying that Bard claimed he turned me down, and then Gunslinger telling me, well, that's a lie, I've heard you in voice chat, which I still don't know what that meant, and then me, 1, offering to talk in voice chat, 2, asking him and Cleric to stop talking about me and Bard dating as it's obviously made them uncomfortable, and me as well. The voice chat was one of the worst things I've ever endured in my life. Honestly, I'm really sorry, but I don't even remember half of it. When I joined, Gunslinger, Bloodhunter, and Cleric were already there, and I immediately had to go into justifying that no, I didn't like Bard, no, I hadn't even turned him down, no, I didn't know if Bard liked me or not, but we were just friends and it shouldn't matter anyways. I brought up the point of my sexuality, which they brushed off, telling me that they thought better of me than to use that defense. They kept pushing until Bard joined and we were similarly denying things. Then the approach changed, going towards accusing both of us of being manipulators, mainly focusing on Bard, though they admitted that they didn't know which of us was the bad guy in this situation. They were calling Bard a creep and saying because of our age difference, again we were both children, that is to say minors, below the age of 18, he was a pedo and a perv. Now, I'm not giving specific ages here, but again, both of us were minors and the age difference was slightly less than 2 years. They were claiming it to be 3 because apparently his birthday was the following month, which it wasn't. But it was a difference in age between high school freshman with an early birthday and high school junior with a late birthday. Eventually, after attacking Bard for apparently being a creep for dating me, and yelling at both of us for flirting and being friends, they turned to me claiming that I could be the manipulator here and they didn't trust me either. They said they wanted to believe I was a nice girl, but I could be behind it all and they didn't know. When I became overwhelmed and my voice broke, Gunslinger told me not to cry because it felt like a defense tactic. Gunslinger had told us that by defending ourselves and arguing back, that it was suspicious and made us look worse. He expected 2 literal children to sit there and take 2 grown, self-proclaimed mature adults attacking them for having an innocuous friendship. Or further, they created a situation where they claimed that there was an abuser and then proceeded to admit they didn't know who the abuser was, and instead attacked both parties? Not only this, but they got angry with me for trying to defend Bard and Gunslinger, called me the most disgusting thing I think anyone could have in that situation: complacent. He had the audacity to call me, someone who they said was a victim, complacent. The rest of the call was Bloodhunter trying to de-escalate what was happening by providing potential reasons for why things were the way they were. And he did a really good job, but Gunslinger and Cleric were too heated to listen. This came out of nowhere for both me and the Bard. We are still incredibly grateful for him doing this. Eventually Gunslinger and Cleric left, and Bard took a quick break. Both Bloodhunter and Bard helped comfort me after I broke down when they left. Cleric and Gunslinger left the server, and Bard and I took a break from Discord. Though that was short-lived, as we decided to hop into another call to discuss what had happened just a few days later. I could say that it ends here, but it doesn't really. Eventually, having been blocked on Discord, Gunslinger took to Snapchat to harass Bard, which happened to be while we were on call as well. He quietly went to deal with it until I got a message on Discord from Gunslinger saying, "Do us a favor, tell your boyfriend Bard to stop trying to justify the fact he told me that you are into him." Having been away from the situation for a few days, all of my anxiety had turned to just cold anger, so I went off on Gunslinger. He tried claiming he had proof and screenshots of something I texted Bard, despite the fact the conversation where he allegedly had screenshots from was completely over voice. And the only text I've sent Bard that day was saying hello and basically us agreeing to get into voice. I called him on this, and then he proceeded to strawman, which I called him out on. He tried to deny calling me complacent by saying I was a coward. He also accused me of lying about misunderstanding how Cleric had felt regarding the quotes chat. Yes, this all stemmed from that chat. He told me that I need to do some growing up and stop using some personal things as a defense tactic. I told him, as an adult, he needed to get off his high horse and stop pretending he knew more than I did, and that he'd cross a line. He told me I'd crossed the line and asked me to please do some growing up, to which I responded that, "What I say to other people isn't your business," before he blocked me. I think he eventually blocked Bard on Snapchat after he similarly refused to back down. Honestly, all in all, despite the fact I was mentally put in a really bad place because of all of this, it did lead to me and Bard becoming friends, and we're basically inseparable. I have been through so much now. We still make jokes about it. Nowadays we're playing in a campaign set 2 years after the old one fell apart, with Bard as the Dungeon Master and Dungeon Master as an observer. We resolved the plot of the old game, and both of our characters are recurring high-level NPCs who help the party. Bard is the new god of knowledge after the old one died during the final fight, and my character is his right-hand man, both of whom act as employers for the party. Our new group is great, and Bard is a great Dungeon Master. Even if it was shitty, I don't think I'd have it any other way. Well, I'm glad to hear that it ends on a positive note. It's always a gamble when you're doing online games, especially online games with an established group and you're the new player, because as you're introduced, tensions can run high, people can feel jealous. It seems that Bard had an established relationship with someone else in the group, and I think that definitely plays in. There's some level of jealousy, and there's some level of mystery around this story still as I'm finishing it. Obviously, I think Cleric and Gunslinger are completely in the wrong with their accusations, especially since it's pointed out that they don't know who the accuser is, so they're going to swing at both, which isn't really helpful if you're trying to help the person. Which I think proves that they weren't really trying to be helpful, they're trying to separate the two with any means necessary. So if it meant bludgeoning her, they were going to go with that. If it meant shaming the Bard, they were going to go with that. Either way, it seems like they didn't like these two people being together. I 100% back up the writer of this story that if she didn't feel like it was a relationship and people were prying too much, like that's just getting into their business. She said that she wasn't interested in Bard. She gave pretty good reasons why she wasn't interested in Bard, and they seemed to brush it off. It seems like two people can't have a platonic relationship in their mind, and that really does speak to their maturity. There is the offhand possibility that Bard has a crush on her, knows it's not going to work out, but has let it slip, and now the party is, I guess, rooting for him, but I don't see how that could even remotely be true, given the rest of the story. The only reason I mentioned this, and this could be complete fabrication, Cleric and Gunslinger make those occasional comments where they say, "Hey, Bard said he turned you down," or "Hey, Bard has a crush on you," or "You definitely have a crush on Bard because this, that, and the other." Not concrete evidence, but it could add a curveball. It doesn't make what Cleric and Gunslinger did right, but it does imply that maybe Bard's a little less than honest, and that could have created the tension indirectly. Still doesn't justify it, and still isn't a good enough reason. At the time of reading this, the story's about 3 years old. I really do hope that she and Bard are still really good friends. I hope he's still a great DM. I love that that was the ending of the story. And I like that even though the Dungeon Master didn't do the best job of diffusing the situation, and although the Blood Hunter no longer really talks to them, they are on positive terms with some people. My reaction? I don't think they're the a-hole. I'm really curious to see if you guys think that she was in the wrong, or if Bard was in the wrong, or if a combination of the two were. I'm curious to hear what you guys thought. Did you think that maybe she came off as an a-hole, or did Bard come off as one? And more importantly, do you think Gunslinger and Cleric were? I feel like the only way you could walk away thinking that Cleric and Gunslinger were being mature adults and looking out for the writer here is if there is some weird information that we don't know. Anyways, I really liked reading this story. I kind of thought it would be a cool discussion. Thanks for stopping by. I really want to do more of the Am I the A-hole style content every once in a while because I feel like it has some of the best discussions when I've seen other creators do it. Make sure to stop by the Discord and share your stories if you have any. I'm actually going to be doing some more community-based content, at least once a month, where I read a lot of those stories that are in the RPG horror and glory stories that are a little too short to have in these dedicated separate videos. So look forward to that. I also have new t-shirts available now in the description below that show off the new Loot Goblin look. It's actually already been over a month where I've had this new look and feel for my videos and my RPG horror stories especially. So I'm really excited to showcase this new avatar off to everyone. And if you have any ideas for a kind of shirt that you'd like to see, please share it in the comments as well. Thanks for stopping by. I hope to see you in the next video. Farewell for now.